looking good. Don't laugh. You are looking good. Well, thank you very much. Good answer. Especially those that have had special birthdays over Christmas. Congratulations. Alrighty. Why don't you turn to the person next to you and say, hey, you're looking good. Go on. Don't sound so surprised. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling good? New year, new you, new Christmas top. Somebody said to me this morning, morning Scott, Happy New Year, new top. So, yep. Okay. Rachel said to me, I haven't got an awful lot organised for kids' church today, Scott, so make it quick, won't you? Aid said to me, I've got loads of songs I want to sing today. You're not going to speak for too long, are you? Great. New year, new me. New year, new you. Do you feel like a new you? It's that time of the year, isn't it, where we take stock, where we reflect and we put 2023 behind us. We look forward with eager anticipation. It's the time of year when we have New Year's resolutions. Anybody made a New Year's resolution? No, ridiculous, silly old things. Why do we do that, eh? But they do. People do that. Don't they? We do that. We've all been tempted by resolutions in one way or another at that new time of the year. A chance to take stock, improve the quality of our lives. We must focus on my health and fitness. Must have more time with the family. Must get that promotion. Determined to finish that course that I've been looking at for ages. Need to ensure that I exercise more. Must lose weight. Must get better sleep. Well, that's enough about me. What about you guys? What have you got for yours? It probably covers most of it, doesn't it? My lovely daughter, who I thought was going to be here today, because Esme, as you know, who sometimes leads worship, she and Leighton had a lovely evening last night with Stuart and Keris, and Stuart is here. But there's a noticeable absence of Keris and Esme and Leighton. And Stuart's bags under his eyes probably tell a story. But Esme is now a trained beauty coach. Ooh, I have no idea what that means. But she works for Clarins. For those who might be listening online, there are other reputable brands also available. And perhaps, therefore, not surprisingly, I got my very own Clarins bag for Christmas. Now, I need to put my glasses on because that's how old I am. Because I have got, here we go, I've got gel energizing gel with red ginseng extract. Yes, I know, it gets better. I've got exfoliating cleanser. Don't know what that means. I've got line control balm. I thought I had laughter lines. I thought they were supposed to be good things. And I've got, what have I got here? Super moisture lotion. I have no idea where I'm supposed to put this stuff and in what order. But I'm told that one of them was for my eyes, and earlier this week, it certainly wasn't the one that I used. It was all right. After 20 minutes, sight was restored. So she did tell me at Christmas, in the Christmas rush, how I was supposed to use them all and in what sort of order. And of course, I was too busy opening other presents, so didn't listen. Anyway, okay, so new year, new me, new year, new you. I've got Rachel as my wife, as you know, who's a personal fitness coach. This time of the year, everybody wants personal fitness coaches for new year, new you. My son, Harry, he's been a former gym manager and a body builder for a long time. He's been shredding and toning. I have no idea what that means as well. Sent me a picture of himself just before Christmas. Have I got this? There we go. There's Harry. New Harry, new me. For years now, people have been talking about the likeness. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. And it's hereditary. I get it from my son. So here we go. So, you know, the new year, the new us, he did give me permission to use that. I'll spare you the other 140 that he sent me from that photo shoot with slightly less T-shirt wear. Okay, new year, new you. All right then. What does it feel like for yourself? Do you know that, and Rachel would testify to this, as would Harry, as they both worked for gyms before, there is a gym membership spike in January. Did you know that? More people at the start of January take on gym membership than any other time of the year. One poll canvassed 1,000 adults, and nearly half of them said that they'd made some form of resolution. A third of these were related to weight, exercise and well-being. The number 1 was must exercise more. The number 3 was must lose weight. And the number 4 was must eat better. These ambitions are sometimes hard to keep. And I've written a little note here because literally on Thursday, when I was preparing part of this, and I wrote, these ambitions are hard to keep, the Lord's sense of humor, there was a knock on my study door, and Rachel walked in with a bowl of Christmas pudding for me. And as I looked at it and thought, must try harder, it was really nice Christmas pudding. Clearly, this New Year, New Me is not working. By the way, who enjoyed all those bacon rolls yesterday? Yeah, New Year, New Us. Yeah, fat chance. Okay. But it's madness, isn't it? It's January, for goodness sake. It's the most miserable month of the year to be giving up all that lovely stuff. And have we looked outside? I mean, today doesn't look too bad, does it? But for the last week, every time I've looked outside, it's been nothing but rain and grey, for goodness sake. And it's the time when we give up all that lovely stuff and, well, I don't know. We get apps. The apps remind us of how much or how little fitness activity we're actually doing. Are they supposed to make us feel better? One leading gym and app provider conducted research among 6,400 users and found that not only did they identify that January was that fitness spike, but they were also able to identify how quickly those ambitious activities started to diminish. Interestingly, the spike in fitness was found 55% of 40 to 49-year-olds were found to have that spike in fitness in January. At 65% of people between 50 and 59 had that January spike in fitness. Don't worry, you're exempt, Andrew. All right, okay. How long does it last before our fitness enthusiasm wanes and starts to dip? Well, according to analysts, it's the 3rd Thursday in January. We've got 17 days of staying power, and then it all goes to pot. And then, there's fall off the wagon day. Does anyone know what fall off the wagon day is? Okay, this is the day, if you can see this, where you compare the dip in gym attendance with the increase in visits to fast food outlets. And 4-Star have done some research into this and defined that the day where the two meet, the overlap, where the downturn in gym visits is met by the upturn in visits to fast food restaurants, is the 9th of February. So there we go. We've got about 5 weeks, and then we're completely bust, aren't we? So it seems to me that it's time to bring in Mrs GREN. Anybody know Mrs GREN? Nobody knows Mrs GREN. My goodness. Mrs GREN, a popular acronym adopted in the 60s and 70s in biology classes in schools to provide insight into the 7 vital signs of healthy biological life. Are we feeling healthy today? Mrs GREN is going to be called in to help us. So here is Mrs GREN. And for those of you that can't remember your biology days back at school, there's only one nodding in the room at the moment. It's just you and me versus the rest of them. Okay, Heather. Okay, it's an acronym. The 7 vital signs of healthy biological life. There should be movement. I did actually say to Rachel, should I actually come up this morning with that music? You know, I like to move it, move it. And she just looked at me and said, no, honey, don't do that. Okay. Respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. The 7 vital signs of healthy biological life. Whilst we're all busy thinking of the new year, new you, I thought maybe it's time for Mrs GREN to go to church. Or put it another way, what are those vital signs that make a healthy church? You and me, a body of believers. There have been many investigations that have sought to address what makes a healthy, vibrant, living church. At the turn of the century, Christian Schwartz published some research for the Natural Church Growth Association, in which he interviewed, or there were interviews of over 1,000 churches in 5 different continents to find 8 quality characteristics that were consistent among healthy, growing churches. Now, some of you will remember Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And shortly after that airport read was published, the Barna Trust, another research trust, church research trust, published some research of the habits of highly effective churches. And they identified 9 healthy habits, according to research, for church life. Clearly, Paul's teaching reminds us from 1 Corinthians 12 that church is a body. We are a body of believers. We have many parts and each has a part to play. We're familiar with that, aren't we? Paul goes on to explore in his writings what keeps the body healthy. Body is a living organism. So whilst the dawn of a new year heralds a return to the gym for many, I thought it was time to look at how we could improve the health, our spiritual health as church, just to challenge us a little bit here in January 2024 to reevaluate what it means to be a healthy body, individuals and collectively, in light of those 7 biological principles that Mrs GREN brings to church. Behind each of these 7 vital signs lies a number of biblical principles that I think we could explore together. Each theme listed will be explored each time we gather together on Sundays, and we'll provide some follow-up thoughts and questions to take away into life groups for those of us that want to explore them then. See it like a spiritual MOT, if you like. Think about it. If we aspire in 2024 to be a welcoming church, reaching out, connecting, what do we say here? Connecting others with God, then surely it makes sense that we want others to come in and see that we are a church that is healthy, a church that is vibrant, a place of life. After all, didn't Jesus say, I have come that you should have life and life in abundance? John 10:10. So how many of us woke up this morning and said, good morning, Lord? Or how many of us woke up this morning and said, oh, good Lord, it's morning? It's time to look afresh. 2024, and we're going to start with Mrs GREN going to church, and we're going to look at movement briefly this morning. Living things move. Living things move. Have you ever looked at a picture like this of sunflower seeds and thought to yourself, how did they manage to plant the seeds so that all of the sunflowers faced in the same direction? Have you ever thought about that? Because the sunflowers follow the axes of the sun. Actually, Rachel told me that was incorrect because actually it's the Earth's axis, not the sun's axis. So we got into a debate about that one, which I won't do right now. But you know what I mean. As the sun travels through the sky, the sunflowers follow, as it were, the sun. In the same way that livestock grazing systems move systematically across pastures. Wildebeest and birds migrate at vast distances at different seasons of the year. Movement is expressed in all sorts of different ways, but it is a common attribute of life. We tend to instinctively move away from what is bad or discomforting for us and towards that which appeals or that is good for us. This got me thinking. If the flowers move to follow the sun, to what degree do we, as followers of Jesus, move to be closer to the sun, to Jesus? So to take a look at this briefly, I want to look at the writer to the Hebrews, who has something to say about moving closer to God, as it's written in Hebrews 10. Have a look at this together. It says, therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened up for us through the curtain, that is his body. And since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. See, the writer to the Hebrews talks about, first and foremost, right in the middle there, drawing near nearer to God. And goes on to talk about this requiring perseverance sometimes, persistence, constant effort. Sometimes, doesn't it feel just a little bit difficult to drag ourselves out of bed and into church on a Sunday morning, especially when we had to get up early on a Saturday morning, didn't we, Aid? That was outrageous. Goodness me. Similarly, James in his letter talks of drawing near as an act of purification, moving closer to God, suggesting that as we draw near to God, then he will draw near to us. And as we look at our three connections on the board here behind me, what have we got here? Connecting with God, drawing nearer. Connecting with one another. Connecting others with God. The 3D church ministries movement refer to these three phases as three phases of movement: up, in, and out. Moving up, closer, as it were, to God. Moving in, drawing in to one another. Moving out, taking the message of Jesus to the world. But it begins with drawing near to Jesus. Let's pause for a minute and examine what we are as church, just for a moment. We are Pershore Community Church. We are a community of Christians. We are followers of Jesus. If Jesus is our leader and we are followers, then he leads us to places and we need to follow. It requires movement to wherever he wants us to be, to experience life, a life in abundance, or life in all fullness. This requires movement. Ask yourself the question, because I'm asking myself the question, where is Jesus leading you right now? As we start January 2024, where is Jesus leading me today? Where is he asking me to go? Jesus takes us to places where we're able to share that life with others and with one another. Interesting, isn't it, that within the same passage here it says, let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, even if it feels, January, do we really have to go to home group, life group in the middle of the week? It's cold out there, it's dark, there's no lights in Wick. Honestly, I only get about 7 hours of light a day at the moment. No street lights anywhere. And yet, let's spur one another on, connecting with one another. Movement. It requires movement. It requires us physically to move, but also I think it requires a spiritual, a mindset move, if you like. Yes, Lord, I want to bless you. Yes, Lord, I want to pursue you. Yes, Lord, I want to bless my church, this family that you've brought me into. I want to bless and support the people that you put around me in our life groups on Sundays as we gather together, in all that we do, in those first Wednesdays throughout the year when we can all meet together as church in different kinds of contexts. And then Jesus leads us out to others, drawing others' gaze perhaps away from other movements of this world that they would so easily fix their gaze on, but rather to draw people's gaze to Jesus and move to a place of followership with Jesus. So to what degree, I ask, do I sense that we are moving with God in our spiritual journey today? I wonder if for some we might feel inclined to think, well, to be honest, just feel like standing still a little bit. Is God calling us today not just to be standing, but actually to be moving, to be ready, whatever that means? Mrs GREN has come to church. And Mrs GREN might say, is it time, new year, new me, to look out for Jesus once again and to ask, Lord, where are you wanting to take me? Where are you wanting to take me this year? Christmas stuff's going away now, getting packed up. It's time to look forwards, not backwards. Lord, where are you taking me? Where are you calling me as individuals and as church collectively? In a couple of weeks' time, the core leadership team will be taking a day out together, a day away from all the noise of the world, to simply ask, Lord, where are you taking us this year, 2024? The writer to Hebrews went on in the next chapter to talk about Abraham. This is what he had to say. By faith, Abraham, when called to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. My goodness. Maybe the Lord's calling us in one sense to know that we are ready to move, even if at this stage he's not going to reveal to us where he wants us to go, what he wants us to do. Maybe the Lord's simply saying, are you ready? Are you ready to say yes to me today? By faith, he made his home, this is Abraham, in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. What are we looking forward to in 2024? What are we? He was looking forward to the city, the builder, the architect is God. I wonder, how would I feel if God said to me, Scott, it's time for you to sell up. It's time, sell up the old oak cottage, leave everything behind that you know and that you're familiar with here. I'm sending you to a new place, but I'm not going to tell you yet where I'm sending you to. I wonder how I'd feel about that. Abraham was quite old when God told him to do that. How would we feel about that? How would I feel about that? How would Rach feel about that? She might have something to say about that. How ready am I to move? I'm not suggesting that God's calling us all to sell our homes and to get ready to move to places. Don't worry. Although I know some people are looking at properties on the market right now, aren't you? But as in, not your home property. But God's calling us all in one sense. Are we ready for where he's wanting to move us to? Even if it's just to move us, as it were, to a conversation with a neighbor that we've never spoken to before. Even if it's to move us into a conversation somewhere within our family that we've not dared go before. Where's God calling us to move to? Interestingly, as I was thinking about this, I thought about all of the other movements that we can so easily get attached to, particularly in our digital world today with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, full of promises of different places where people can engage and move into. And as I was thinking about that yesterday morning, there was a knock on the door, and I wasn't sure whether to say this or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. There was a knock on the door, and I opened the door. There were two people there who introduced themselves to me as Jehovah's Witnesses. And I said, good morning. They said, good morning, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. I said, good morning. I'm a committed Christian and a member of my local church. Nice to meet you. And they said, lovely to meet you too. You could see they were already preparing to leave. And I said, bless you on your travels today. And then I went back into my study. And I thought about the words that I just said, bless you on your travels today. Because those people were moving, in one sense, to make connections. And it got me thinking, how are we moving? How am I moving to make connections? Mrs. GREN goes to church. And Mrs. GREN asks, is it time to move? Church, are we ready to move? Are we ready to make a personal commitment or recommitment as we start January 2024 to follow Jesus wherever that may take us? What did Jesus say in that early part of Matthew, the account of Jesus calling the disciples? He saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and the brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people, or as older versions said, to be fishers of men. And then it says, at once they left their nets and followed him. At once. Are we ready, whatever it takes this year, to follow Jesus? Are we ready to move? A healthy church is a church that's moving individually and collectively together. We may be making some announcements over the next few months as Jesus reveals things to us. I want you to remember this moment. We started by talking about being ready to move. We may be coming back as a core leadership team saying, guys, are we ready? I think God's calling us to something. It begins with a decision to draw near to him, to say, yes, Jesus, I choose life and life to the full as you would have it. Or, as Isaiah put it, Lord, here am I, send me. If you're able to, do you want to stand? And I'm just going to invite us as we pray together There are so many influences at the beginning of a new year. Where's Jesus in all of that? Let's be still for a moment. Let's invite the Holy Spirit to come. Aid, if you want to join me.